I'm Terrence Anderson. We're at the John Knox Towers in beautiful Ghent shooting this particular episode of Biorhythms. Biorhythms is brought to you by KRT LLC. Biorhythms is brought to you by KRT LLC, providing full-service tank cleaning, painting, fire watch, and shipboard maintenance for marine, industrial, government, and commercial businesses. The KRT website is www.k-r-t-llc.com, and you can call them at 757-228-3452. KRT LLC, your leading provider in quality shipboard solutions. And my guest today is someone that I've known for some 30 years, a good friend, a talented actor, director, and producer, executive producer, Mr. Ethan Marten.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. It's hard to believe we've known each other for 30 years when I'm only 25 myself. And you can't be much older.
That's that new math, you know.
Yes.
That's that new math.
I'm liking that new math.
As am I.
Yes.
So, Ethan, yours is such an interesting background, and I really want to start with where it all began. You were telling me that you're from New York and in Manhattan. You were born at
Lenox Hill Hospital, right there in the heart of Manhattan. And, I came from a very interesting family. Dad was one of the leading entertainment attorneys in New York. He'd produced 150 Broadway shows and motion pictures. He had people like Errol Flynn and Fernando Lamas and Desi Arnaz
as his clients.
As his clients. And we didn't know that was very exciting. It was when we got a phone call from Mo Howard of the Three Stooges. And he was asking for Our Father. Then we knew he was a big deal.
Interesting.
Mom went on to write 20 novels. She'd been writing for 16 magazines and radio soaps.
Okay.
She was at one point considered one of the top 10 writers in the country. So I would have had a hard time not falling into the arts, but it was the dinner table where I think I first fell in love with entertainment.
And as you were telling me, everyone participated in that style of entertainment, that dinner theater.
Mom was Margaret Dumont of the table, and my three older brothers and Pop were the four Marx brothers. And Mom basically was the brunt of everybody's humor. And I remember turning to my older brother at one point, Seth, and I said, "When will I be funny too?" I thought somebody flipped a switch, and then, I was part of the act.
Right.
Yeah.
So you eventually discovered theater. How did that come about? Now, I want you to briefly talk about the experience in the first grade, and then we can.
Okay. Well, in first grade, I was afforded the role of trumpeter, very vital role in the Lollipop Princess, and our princess Sharon Son, a rare beauty indeed. I was to come.
You felt that in the first grade.
Oh well. Extraordinary talent and beauty and grace.
Okay.
My role was to announce the princess and then blow on these little plastic horns that we used to have at Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
The princess, that's all I had to do. And I come out and I dropped my horn. And there was a gasp from the 1,000 parents assembled in the Chatsworth Auditorium.
Now, you're exaggerating, or were there that many people?
This is Westchester. And
Westchester, New York.
The theater, the proscenium arch was probably the most beautiful I'd seen up until I reached college. It rivaled some smaller Broadway houses. I mean, they knew how to build theaters back then.
Certainly.
The wood was gorgeous, and the parents were just aghast. Oh, that poor child. And I bent down to pick up the horn, and I accidentally kicked it out of my own grasp. And there were a few snickers, a couple of stifled laughs. And I immediately heard those few laughs, and I heard them over the gasps. And so I ran to pick up the trumpet, and this time I kicked it out of my reach on
On
purpose. And bigger laughs, and so I just kicked it clear across the stage, off stage right.
A natural entertainment.
It was, and I could see my teacher, and she's starting to pull out her hair. And then I arrive off stage right triumphantly, blow the horn, announce the princess, and got a standing ovation from the parents. And
You knew how to play the crowd. Yeah.
That was it. Now, my next experience didn't come for many years, but I don't think I ever lost that.
And
that
your
feeling.
next experience was in the 7th or 8th grade? You played in
8th grade.
Midsummer's?
Dee
Night?
Dee O'Brien, Homics Junior High. She, to this day, has the longest running junior Shakespeare company in the country. But back then, I had no idea. A couple of my elementary school teachers pulled strings to get me in this class. It was just another English class to me. But every year they did a Shakespeare showing, and they worked with Lincoln Center, so it was very prestigious. Yeah.
Really?
I had no idea. So she had me read from Nick Bottom the Weaver. This was my first audition, but I had no idea I was auditioning.
Tell us about that experience.
She gives me, one of the chapters with Nick Bottom the Weaver, says, read here. So I'm reading the page, and as I'm reading, like I would actually do in my English class, I start climbing on the chair, and from the chair I climbed onto the little school desks, and I'm, just performing, as was my wont, just because that to me was natural. Not for any other
You
student.
were longing for that first grade experience again.
She was my audience. If I have an audience of 1, 2, or 3, I will go all out. And when I finished, she says, "You got it." And I climbed down off the desk and I said, "Yeah, I know. I understood." She goes, "No, you got it." I said, "Yeah, I understood. This is what that means." And she says, "No, dear, you got the part." And I had no idea what she was talking about. That was my first audition, and I had no idea what an audition
And I'm sorry,
was.
what was the part again?
Nick Bottom the Weaver, which is really funny because that same year, young actor was discovered for the role of my bodyguard. And right now, I'm actually blanking on his name. Very famous actor. He'll come to me later in the interview, and then I'll shout it out to you.
Okay.
But he got discovered cutting science class that year.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
It'll be much more impressive. Matt Dillon.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Matt, you son of a gun, you cut science and got discovered, and I actually had to work for a living for a lot of years.
I guarantee you that he's going to see this. We'll make sure some kind of way that
I'll
Matt
make sure
doesn't
he
see
sees it.
this.
As a matter of fact, a little girl I used to babysit actually ended up marrying his brother. So who knows? Maybe he will.
But we're
Matt,
gonna.
this is Terrence F. Anderson. You should hire him. He's great.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. We're going to have to take a bit of a break right now, and when we return, I want to talk a little bit more about your, what brought you here to Norfolk,
Okay.
and just a little bit more about that.
Fantastic.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're going to continue our conversation, our interesting conversation with Mr. Ethan Marten. Ethan, what brought you to Norfolk?
Well, I think what brought me and my family to Virginia was the fact that we were going to build a movie studio in the area. Mom and Dad used to come down from New York every year for their anniversary to Williamsburg, and that was a big family vacation. So when Pop retired, they were going to move in a more southerly direction. We basically yanked them out of retirement, came up with the brilliant idea to build a movie studio, and we ended up in Norfolk and Virginia Beach. And
Rather than Williamsburg, he was courted by Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach kind of courted him. We were actually in Williamsburg for about a year. I went to William and Mary at the time.
Okay.
And we actually rented a house from Bruce Hornsby's mom and dad.
I saw him just the other night.
Oh, how was he?
He's a riot.
That's
But go right ahead.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We recorded toward Virginia Beach, the Solar Buildings out by Pembroke Mall.
Okay.
And we probably would have built the movie studio there if it had not been for a couple of things. The F-18s,
Right.
and the fact that the officers used to tell us we won't even let our wives shop at Pembroke because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So we thought, for sound purposes and safety
Yes,
purposes, as a matter of fact, when the F-18 came down
Right.
a year or two ago,
Yes.
I was less than a block away from where it happened.
Oh, my God.
I thought a truck ran into one of the dumpsters until I saw the billowing smoke down the block.
Truck with wings.
Yes.
So you open up a studio, movie studio,
So we built a $20 million motion picture studio,
by the name of?
Atlantic Film Studios. Governor Belial's cut the ribbon. My dad gave the opening speech. We had David Ogden Steers
Yes.
from MASH there at the opening ceremony. And within, I think it was about 2 years, we had the savings and loan crisis hit America. So all the banks started going in a southerly direction
Right,
as well. They
south,
became insolvent. As a matter of fact, there was a bank here in town called Atlantic Permanent, only it wasn't so permanent. No.
Okay.
We had $20 million, 20-year notes,
Understood.
and $16 million became due and payable overnight when the banks collapsed.
That had been a very scary situation.
None of us had $16 million to pay overnight, so
Right,
that was the
right.
first time we got into the studio.
But you did produce one film there, didn't you?
We had a lot of minor films that came through, and we were the head of our own studio then. And Charlie Sheen was here in town. That was
Right, that was
produced.
for Navy
That was
SEALs.
produced. Navy SEALs was produced at our studio, and
Okay.
a lot of stuff has been done at the studio since. Not under our charge, but I think Dominion Pictures, New Dominion,
Understood.
has had a couple of lifetimes in the studio as well, and they've had great success there, and a lot of people have gotten their first and ongoing film work there, so we're proud of that.
But you were like a phoenix. You came out of that
We
experience.
did.
And you did
Well,
another
we got in a
project.
second time.
Okay.
I think I told you, but we were distributing several films, including one with Hugh Grant,
Right.
Anne Margaret, and Julie Andrews. So we had a couple of Oscar winners in this, and we were off to the races again.
Yes.
We had 100,000 units sold to Blockbuster at the discount price of between $49 and $59 a unit. VHSs back in their heyday.
Right.
And the day before the release of this film, Hugh Grant had the indiscretion heard round the world. And he was busted with a working girl, let's say. And Blockbuster, very family-oriented, canceled all 100,000 units.
And how did you handle that? How did you? You got very inventive.
Well, yes. We were about to crash and burn on this one. We just basically lost close to $5 million on this. And my brother was in the doorway of my office and just leaning and very depressed. It was wrist-cutting time. And here we go again. And I was playing with the sales figures on my desk, just spinning them around. And I said, Rick, look, the sales figures, they're turning around. And he's holding his stomach. He's like, Ethan, I don't have the stomach for this. I'm like, no, really. I picked it up by the corner, and I start lifting the sales figures off my desk. I said, look, sales, they're going up. It's like, I can't laugh right now. I said, no, I got an idea. So I get on the phone to the New York Post, the Daily News, AP, finally USA Today. Their entertainment editor picks up. And I tell him, look, I'm looking at these sales figures on my desk. You won't believe it. After Hugh Grant's little indiscretion, I'm looking at my sales figures, and they're rising.
As you
They said,
were
yeah,
actually
yes,
rising.
as they were rising off my desk, as I was lifting them up. And they said, does anybody else have this story? I said, nope, you're the first. They said, send it to us. So I sent them a fax.
You're a real New Yorker.
I'm a New Yorker. We owed a lot of people in town
Right.
money. They printed the posters and the marketing materials, and we weren't the only ones who were going to get hurt. And I wanted to make sure we didn't crash land, but maybe we kind of coasted to our landing. Anyway, USA Today prints 3 inches. I take that, I send it to the New York Post. They print a 4th of July story. From there, it goes to AP, Reuters. Within 2 weeks, we're on the cover of Time magazine, winners of the week. And though Blockbuster did not, purchase their 100,000 units again, we actually did kind of coast to our landing, and we were able to pay off a lot of bills to a lot of smaller people that otherwise would have gotten very badly injured.
That's, again, very, very...
Hugh Grant got on The Tonight Show because I was talking to his manager and the people at The Tonight Show, and they couldn't believe that the sales figures were going up.
And they literally going up.
Well, they literally were at that point because of all the press we were getting. But
Wow.
anyway, when I see Hugh Grant again, I'm going to tell him he owes me.
For launching his career in the most grandest of
for
ways.
salvaging his career.
Right. Man, I'm so excited to talk with you, and I want to continue, but we're going to take another break now.
Well,
and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about your education locally, because that's an interesting story as well, and then the projects that you have coming
we'll
up.
talk about whatever you want.
Okay, well, I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Yes. Boom. We're back.
Yes, we are. So,
And better than ever. You look a little like Sean Connery.
Well, I've aged a little bit in the
Yeah.
last half hour. or
Say
so.
good morning, Miss Moneypenny.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Okay. So, Norfolk State University. We're going to get to that. Yeah.
I was waiting tables at
Okay.
Carlos Murphy's, and I'd been to William and Mary for about a year, and that broke the bank, and I couldn't afford to go back to school. And there was this very nice lady who made me look very dark-skinned, and she said that her daughter was going to Norfolk State on a minority scholarship, and I wanted to know how I could get in on this. And she said, it's a historically black institution. They need 10% white population going to the school. And I said, hold that thought. Went to the kitchen, found the manager, and said, I quit. Went back to the table, thanked her, said, my friend is going to be waiting tables, taking care of you for the rest of the meal. How do I? And she said, his name is Fred Cool. He's the admissions director. Here's his number. Handed it to me within an hour and a half. I had a full ride scholarship and was able to continue my college education.
You graduated from Norfolk State.
I am a Spartan, magna cum laude.
And a degree in
Journalism.
Magna cum laude.
Yes, journalism.
Yeah. So, after you graduated, I met you from doing theater. I was at the generic theater at the time.
Well, when I moved to town, I hadn't, other than Lollipop Princess and, this 8th grade production of Shakespeare, I hadn't been on stage. And you were the dean of actors and directors. You were a big deal. I worked with your...
too kind.
Not at all. I worked with your uncle at the Omni. He was like the head chef in the kitchen, and Uncle Milton. And he told me I had to meet his nephew. And I guess somehow between generic theater and Norfolk State, you and I first met. And you were a deity.
Okay, you're making me feel very uncomfortable because it's really not accurate. In any event, so we're not going to talk about stage, but I want to make sure that we talk about White Buffalo and Eyes of the Roshi. White Buffalo is complete now.
It's in post-production.
Okay.
We've completed shooting. We had more than 1,000 hours of footage by the time we finished this documentary. And it's my 3 older brothers and I traveling across the country, meeting Native American elders and other spiritual elders. And we're coming to a time where people who are wisdom keepers are becoming wisdom sharers.
Okay.
And so that this wisdom is not lost to the ages, they're sharing this wisdom so that we can pass it on to what they call the 7th generation.
This is the
White Buffalo.
Yeah, this is the topic. This is the documentary.
Correct.
Is what you just said.
And White Buffalo is a Plains Indian prophecy. The Lakotas, it's incredibly sacred to them.
Right.
And it deals with basically the birth of a sacred white buffalo, and that being the signal, if you will, the call that White Buffalo Calf Woman is coming back, and that there will be an age of peace and the mending of the sacred hoop.
Yeah. And that is in post-production. When do you expect that to be released?
Hopefully at the end of 2015.
Fantastic.
We're also shooting Eyes of the Roshi.
Tell us about that.
It's a martial arts film, and it's kind of martial arts meets high noon. We'll be shooting that in May, and right now I'm in negotiations with an Oscar nominee who's done more than 300 films to appear in this with us.
Oscar nominated who's done 300 films. And you just
know
gonna
his sister.
just gonna tease me like
you know
that.
his sister, and frankly, his daughter is becoming quite famous too. But I knew him way back when.
Really?
I can't announce his name because he hasn't signed yet.
I have an idea.
If I said, Paulie, he cut off my thumbs, Paulie, maybe you would know who I'm talking about.
You have to be careful being giving us those kinds of hints.
I can't put the cart before the horse.
So you have some other projects that you want to work on in there.
Well, sure. White Buffalo and Eyes of the Roshi should both be complete by the end of 2015. I've got another film that my brother wrote that I've been carrying with me, my brother Seth, for more than 30 years, and that's called Lost April. There's another film I'm raising the money for called Perfect Breed. And Richard and I are working on a public company. So I have my Light Age Films. He has Star Circle Pictures, but we're forming a third company which is going to go public. And that will be specifically to raise motion picture monies, financing for motion pictures.
So how do people get in touch with you with Light Age? Where can they find information about
just go on Facebook. Just go on Facebook. My websites are all over the place, but literally Facebook. Ethan Marten, Marten. Very easy to get a hold of and unassuming.
We're very glad to have you come here.
It's great to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. But you make a remarkable addition to the cultural community here and in the entertainment community. Because I've known you for a long time, but some of the things that you mentioned I've not known. So I'm glad to learn these things along with our viewers.
Praise from Caesar. When it is time for you to be interviewed, I'll do the interview because your audience should know about you.
When you're casting that you refer to me as an acting deity.
You were my first choice in Atlantis Down. You came that close. You were right there.
I was so close, but not getting cast. Just keep me in mind.
I wasn't the casting director. I was a lowly producer, but you're in on the next one.
Well, Ethan, thank you so very much. Really a pleasure.
Always great to see you.
With you. Likewise, man. Likewise. We want to thank you for joining us as well. Stay tuned for some more editions of Biorhythms coming up in the immediate future. We have a lineup of exciting guests. I'm Terrence Anderson, and this has been Biorhythms.